Welcome to LinesToGo installation videos. Today we will be removing and installing fuel lines on a 2008 Chev 3500 HD cab and chassis with LinesToGo part number FL588G and FL588H. While this particular installation is on a 2008 Chev 3500 HD, this set of lines will also work on the following year, make, and models as shown in your screen now. LinesToGo lines are made using original equipment end forms and fittings that are CNC bent for an easy and precise installation. We have also upgraded to stainless steel braided Teflon hoses for rust protection and to prevent surface fouling. These have an unlimited shelf life and anti-static PTFE liner. This set of LinesToGo lines are made from G2 Galfan coated steel tubing for rust resistance that exceeds OEM standards. Tech tip: disconnect the battery before working on a vehicle to reduce the risk of shorting out the battery on tools or lines. LinesToGo lines are made with a sectional design for easier installation. We also use color-coded unions on our sectioned lines. Just match the colors at the connections. Tools required are 10mm, 13mm, and 15mm sockets and ratchet, 16mm and 19mm wrenches, flat blade screwdriver, cutting pliers, drain pan, floor jack, and jack stands. The level of difficulty for this installation is considered to be medium. Disconnect both batteries using a 10mm socket. Next, remove the metal safety clips from both fuel line connections at the driver's side of the engine using a flat blade screwdriver. Release the return line quick connect fitting using the LinesToGo disconnect tool part number 5230-01. Release the feed line quick connect fitting using the LinesToGo disconnect tool part number 3145-01. Located below the fuel line connections at the engine, use a 13mm socket to remove the bolt securing the metal bracket attached to the two lines. Underneath the vehicle, use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the feed and return line at the flexible section located beside the transmission. Use a flat blade screwdriver to open the plastic clip securing the fuel lines to the transmission. Use a pair of pliers to open the metal bracket securing the lines at the front of the transmission. Open the plastic clip securing the wiring harness. Remove the front set of fuel lines from the vehicle. Note, if you're having difficulty removing these lines, removing the engine oil filter will give you a little more room to work with. At the fuel cooler, use the LinesToGo disconnect tool part number 5230-01 to remove the two quick connect fittings from the inlet and outlet of the cooler. On the driver's side frame, locate the 3 bolts securing the ABS module and remove them using a 13mm socket. Note, the ABS module will need to be moved slightly to route the fuel lines. If your brake lines are not in good condition, this could result in a leak. Remove the center section of return line from the vehicle. Next, we will need to remove the main fuel tank from the vehicle. To begin the removal of the fuel tank, start by disconnecting the filler hose and vent hose from the filler neck using a flat blade screwdriver. Remove the vent hose on the tank side of the T-fitting. You will also need to locate the vent tube coming from the auxiliary tank and remove it. Under the vehicle, use a 15mm socket to remove the 4 bolts securing the plastic tank cover and remove it. Support the fuel tank and use a 15mm socket to remove the 2 bolts securing the tank straps and remove the straps from the vehicle. Carefully lower the fuel tank until you can gain access to the fuel line connections at the sending unit. Use the LinesToGo disconnect tool, part number 3145-01, to disconnect the 1/2-inch feed line. To disconnect the return line, use the LinesToGo disconnect tool, part number 5230-01. Remove the electrical connector from the sending unit. Continue to carefully lower the fuel tank out of position and remove it from underneath the vehicle. Use a flat blade screwdriver to open the plastic clip securing the fuel lines to the frame. Remove the rear section of the return and feed lines. Located on the T-fitting, use the LinesToGo disconnect tool, part number 5230-01, to remove the quick connect fitting of the auxiliary feed line. You will also need to disconnect the vent line quick connection. At the rear auxiliary fuel tank, use a flat blade screwdriver to loosen the clamps securing the filler hose and the vent hose to the filler neck and remove them. Under the rear of the vehicle, use a 15mm socket to remove the bolts securing the lower fuel tank cover. Support the auxiliary tank and use a 15mm socket to remove the 2 tank straps. Remove the straps from the vehicle. Lower the auxiliary tank until you can get access to the fuel line connections to the sending unit. Use the LinesToGo disconnect tool, part number 5230-01, to disconnect the feed and vent lines from the sending unit. Remove the electrical connector from the sending unit. If you do not have enough room to access the connections easily, use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the lines at the flexible section and remove the connections once the tank is removed. Continue to lower the auxiliary tank and remove it from underneath the vehicle. On the driver's side rear of the frame, use a 13mm socket to remove the 2 nuts securing the lift pump bracket. Disconnect the electrical connector at the lift pump. Use a 19mm and a 16mm wrench to remove the 2 threaded connections in the lift pump. Remove the vent line from the back of the lift pump bracket. Remove the lift pump from the vehicle. Use a flat blade screwdriver to remove the fuel lines from the plastic clips along the frame. Remove the rear section of feed line. Use a pair of cutting pliers to cut the vent line in the center. Remove the front section of the auxiliary vent line. Remove the front and rear sections of the auxiliary feed line. To begin the installation of your new LinesToGo fuel lines, start by installing the rear auxiliary vent line labeled SA588H313A1 into position. Next, install the rear section of the auxiliary feed line labeled SA588H375BH into position. Replace the lift pump back into position and secure the vent line into the back of the lift pump bracket. Start the threaded fitting of the rear feed line into the lift pump. Next, install the front auxiliary vent line labeled SA588H313A2 into position. Start the threaded fitting into the union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Secure the line into the plastic clips on the frame and tighten the union using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. Connect the front of the auxiliary vent line to the rubber hose connection. Next, install the front section of the auxiliary feed line labeled SA588H375AH into position. Start the threaded fitting into the lift pump and tighten both fittings in the pump using a 19mm and a 16mm wrench. Connect the lift pump electrical connector. Using a 13mm socket, replace the two nuts securing the lift pump bracket. Connect the feed line connection to the T-fitting at the main tank vent line. Next, install the main tank fuel line labeled SA588G500B into position and insert it into the plastic clips along the frame. Next, install the rear section of return line labeled SA588G375C into position and secure it into the plastic clips. Connect the front quick connect fitting onto the inboard connection of the fuel cooler. Next, install the center section of the return line labeled SA588G375B into position behind the ABS module. Connect the rear quick connect fitting onto the outboard connection of the fuel cooler. To prepare the front fuel lines labeled SA588F500A and SA588F375A for installation, place them beside the old lines and remove the metal bracket using a pair of pliers and install it onto the new LinesToGo fuel lines. Install both front lines into position, routing them between the engine and the firewall. Secure the front lines into the front metal bracket and the rear plastic clips. Connect the flexible sections of line to the front lines, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connections. Secure the ABS module using a 13mm socket. Raise the auxiliary tank into position, and once it is high enough, connect both fuel line connections to the sending unit along with the electrical connector. Continue to raise the fuel tank into position, making sure to guide the filler and vent tubes over the frame. Install the fuel tank straps and secure them using a 15mm socket. Remove the support and using a 15mm socket, replace the lower auxiliary fuel tank cover. Use a flat blade screwdriver to tighten the clamps on the filler and vent lines. Place the fuel tank back into position underneath the vehicle and raise it until you can connect the fuel lines and the electrical connector. Once connected, continue to raise the tank into position, making sure to route the filler hose and vent hose over the frame. Replace the fuel tank straps and secure them using a 15mm socket. Remove the support from under the tank and replace the plastic cover using a 15mm socket to replace the bolts. Reconnect the filler hose and vent hose to the filler tube and secure the clamps using a flat blade screwdriver. Connect the vent line from the auxiliary tank to the filler tube. Use a 13mm socket to secure the metal bracket at the engine. Connect the two quick connect fittings at the engine and replace the metal safety clips. On the passenger side of the engine, locate the fuel filter. To bleed the air from the fuel system, use a flat blade screwdriver to loosen the plastic bleeder screw and pump the primer bulb until you stop seeing air bubbles and there is a steady flow of fuel. Tighten the bleeder screw, being careful because it is only made of plastic. Connect both batteries using a 10mm socket. This concludes the installation of fuel lines on a 2008 Chev 3500 HD cab and chassis with LinesToGo part number FL588-G and FL588-H. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or would like to purchase the lines you saw today, please call us at 1-855-781-5992. Email us at info@linestogo.com or check out our website link below. And don't forget to take advantage of our free 2-day shipping. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, and we will see you on our next video.